Hello, everyone. Welcome to All In on Real Estate. I'm your host, Aaron Goins. I started this meetup because when I was in the military, no one in my circles talked about real estate. And I wanted to start a meetup where people could talk about real estate and start building generational wealth for them and their families. I'm very, very excited for our guest speaker, Mr. Justin Smith. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, man. It's been a busy night. I got a couple of things going on. But it's good. It's good. I stay humble to stay blessed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me start off by asking you the first question. I like that, Angel. I saw you. Ask you the first question I always everybody, man. What was your journey? What's your origin story to real estate?
The origin story for real estate for me, started at a very young age. Really just had a motivation to see things built, to see things come to life. Whether it was, and this might date me, but I'm gonna throw it out there. Whether it was Play-Doh or whether it was Legos or whether it was picks of sticks or blocks or whatever the case might be. Interesting story. I was really motivated in the Bay Area. There was a lot of scattered site developments going on in the 90s and so on in other years, particularly in areas like downtown Oakland or even West Oakland, things like that. And there was this one developer that had taken a lot and put a number of Victorian homes on that site. I was dismayed because, we used to, cut through the lot and ride our bikes to the nearby store, to school and so on. But I was all that at the same time amazed with the fact that that could happen. And then that set me off on a course of wanting to build city blocks myself. And so, went through the schooling, went through the training, went through the ups and downs, and now I'm on the ups and continuing to have good people around me and learn from others and continue to learn by doing and get out there and get it done. So I'm still in it. So
that's what's up. Starting off early in your real estate career, what was your first couple of learning points?
One of my first learning points was, I started off like many of your guests here, or maybe some of your guests. I don't want to be presumptive, with the single family space, right? Buying a home, renovating it, fixing it up, renting it out, and then going through that. So that was sort of my first foray into that. And at the time I was doing foreclosures and those type of homes. So really that really gave me a good feel on, okay, what does it take? You read all the books, you see all the late night commercials and all that type of stuff. But when you actually get in there and do it, you figure out, what it takes to get a good tenant. How long are they going to stay? Will they tear up your place? Will they call you on Sunday at 2 a.m. and tell you their water heater's busted and they got 2 inches of water across their floor? So that's where I really sort of cut my teeth on that and really understood what it takes and what it means to, as they say, have skin in the game, right?
I think you did something very interesting, and I like to ask the guests through this question. What's the difference in your mind from a business owner to an entrepreneur?
That's a good question. I think an entrepreneur is more spiritual. And I don't mean that in a religious sense, but I think an entrepreneur is someone who endeavors to really be that groundbreaker, to really have their own business enterprise, to really have that vision, to be a visionary, right? And then the business owner is like when the rubber meets the road, when you take out that loan or you take out that note or you have expenses and you have revenue and you got to manage that. And you need to understand that it's not just this visionary piece that an entrepreneur will have. And it's really one and the same. It's a really fine nuance, but that's where, as they say, the rubber meets the road. Because as a business owner, you really have to manage those 5 corners. And what I mean by that. So as an entrepreneur, you're trying to do the ABCs, always be creative, always putting your idea together, right? always trying to assemble something, or once it is assembled, trying to take it to that next level. That's what an entrepreneur is in that space. But in terms of a business owner, you're thinking about sort of the five corners, and I'll go over those: sales, marketing, operations, finance of some sort, and then accounting and taxes, right? So from a business ownership perspective, there are those tangible things that you really have to understand. As an entrepreneur, maybe one or two of those things are together. Maybe you layer that on top, like your Elon Musks and those type of individuals out there that are entrepreneurial as well as business managers, and kind of merge those two together. But that's how I would describe that. I think at some point in time, as you graduate into that whole entrepreneurial piece, they become merged together.
Totally understand with that. I love the analogies too. So, you talk about how, some of the early learning parents, but let's move forward. Let's move to like to come up to like the COVID era. What was some of the things that you went upon, part of your construction career into real estate as well?
I think some of the things that I learned from the old career, or not old career, but from the older days and it's only like a year or two ago, right? In terms of post-COVID, pre-COVID, and that type of thing is, and it's really the one thing that really remains true. You got to have broad shoulders. You got to be able to shoulder the push and the pull, the north and the west, the east and south, or whatever the case might be. And notice I didn't say northwest, east, south. It may push you in either direction. You really got to have the ability, the staying power, right? Right now we're dealing with an environment where interest rates are rising. You just 3 months ago, you could have had a great deal that was financeable, that was had great returns, had your yield on cost straight, your IRR was good, all these different factors, and the next thing you know, boom, 75 basis points, 100 basis points, 2% return increase, this, that, right? So you really have to have that staying power. You really have to have the ability to just shoulder some of these situations. And so what I've learned now is the deals that I get into now, you got to have strong partners. You got to have strong equity. You got to have, reliable resources around you. You got to have, people that you can work with, that you can trust, because it's going to get rough. It will get rough. It may be rosy right now, but it may get rough. And so those are the things that I think I've learned from then to now.
Did you have to make a shift with COVID?
I did, and I think we all did. I think we all had to figure out how to do things technologically better, right? I'm pretty sure every business in America could say, man, I had to go from full class business to takeout only, right? We had to think about how to communicate through Zoom. We had to think about going to meetups where there were 30, 40, 50 people. Like you were one of the first individuals that I met through COVID and through sort of the technical ways of meeting people. I've known Angel, who I know is in the crowd here and a participant here, for 2-3 years. And I just met her in person about a month or so ago, and was like, oh my God, it really is you. Like, and so, but it's an amazing kind of going through, meeting people and learning how to communicate, learning how to evaluate deals and working with other on deals, and learning how to raise capital through technology, right? I mean, because you're not like, hey, let's go meet me at coffee. Let's have a, let's have a lunch, or let's have a this and let's have a that, right? But you couldn't do that. You had to get on Zoom. And yes, your guest that is in the audience here, she does have purple hair, but but nevertheless, COVID has changed a lot of things, but it's made you really think about, is this really what you want to do? And so that's the question I had to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like with Angel, he met me in person as well when he was in Seattle. So we had lunch together. We had dinner together, him and my son. So
that's right. It was awesome. Awesome.
And Angel, I am taller than him, just to let you know.
Yes, he is.
Um, so I I want to open up for questions for attendees. So I'm gonna ask you a couple more questions and I'll let them ask.
Okay.
What would you say to someone who's aspiring, who's just coming up in age and into real estate?
I would say read as much as you can and do as much as you can, almost simultaneously, because there's so many sort of books out there on different aspects of it, right? Just within the multifamily world, you could go down this rabbit hole of either underwriting or property management or capital raising, right? Or brokering, right? But really try to read as much as you can, but also try to do as much as you can, because there's a lot of different facets of it. It's almost like a diamond, right? And there's all of these cuts and corners and pieces and parts, and it reflects in certain ways, in different ways. But you knowing what that particular piece is will be an advantage to you. But you don't know that in the very beginning because there's so many pieces and parts. So I'd say read about, on a macro level as much as you can, and learn as much. And I don't mean just read them. Maybe there's YouTube, maybe there's videos, maybe there's the great content that you put out on All In. But really try to absorb the industry and all these different pieces and parts, and then try to hone in on what it is that you want to do, because you might be in a space where you're renovating buildings. You have a guest I saw on earlier that is in an urban context and renovating church buildings and other city buildings to different use. Or you might be out in an area where it's rural and you're building from ground up. Or you're in another context where you're doing senior housing or student housing or self-storage, right? So there's a lot of different areas, but read, learn, and do.
Love it, love it, love it. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years?
That's a good question. Actually, I started that where I wanted to see myself in 5 years. I actually started that in 2019, 2020, and I wrote it on my wall. Where I want to see myself in 5 years is having 1,000+ units, having 1 to 2 developments underway to the tune of 300 or so units, having a specific level of income that meets the needs that I've set up, and then also having in place generational wealth assets that gets me to that second part of the 5 years. So those are kind of the things that I've been setting with, and then there's a specific number that's associated with what I want coming in on a day-to-day basis that keeps your cell phone on and keeps your lights paid and bills paid and all that type of stuff. And then there's the other piece that you make money with your feet, you make money when you sleep, and then there's a third piece of doing what I enjoy. So that's that 5-year plan.
Was there a vision board set up? Did you have a vision board when you start planning?
Yes, I do, and I still have it up.
How important do you think that is to people who are just starting up? I mean, just a vision board.
I think it's very important. I think you need to keep, as they say, have SMART goals, but also keep your goals in front of you. Because if you don't see where you're going, if you don't visualize where you're going, if you don't actively look at where you're going, then there's a lot of off-ramps in life. There's a lot of off-ramps in world and business and in real estate that could derail you. So you constantly have to be thinking about why am I doing this? And how does this get back to the goal that I'm trying to achieve? Does that make sense?
Right.
So, and for me, let's say someone on this call calls me and say, hey, I got a 200 unit self-storage deal in the middle of Kansas, right? Okay, how does that contribute to my goal. Or someone says, hey, I got 22 acres in the middle of Austin, Texas. It's going at a great price. Hey, would you like to go in on it? Well, how does that contribute to the goal? So that's kind of how I use that vision board.
Okay, and two more questions for me. And I know this is kind of personal, but negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that as a real estate investor, as a GP, and things like that?
That's immensely important. It's everything you do. I mean, whether you're negotiating with an owner or with an insurance rep or with a buyer or a potential seller or your contractor, it's everywhere. There's some form of, and I don't even know how we can call it negotiation, because it's some form of give or take. It's some form of bartering. It's all around us. And I think it's extremely important. And I think, and I'll take that one step further. It's not always important to just win, right? In these sort of win-lose scenarios, right? Because there's the lose-lose, there's the win-lose, there's the lose-win, and then there's the win-win, right? And I think that as you negotiate through real estate, you need to understand which one of those routes you need to take. And quite frankly, if you can have more of the win-win scenarios, you tend to create better relationships. And so, but to answer your question directly, negotiation is immensely important.
I've seen him negotiate, everybody, so I definitely know what he's talking about. up close and personal, I've seen him negotiate. So look, I'm going to open up for questions. I mean, I can ask a lot more questions. I'm open up for questions. Anybody got a question for Justin?
So are the questions going through chat, or is it?
No, they can just open up the mic and ask.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hey Justin, how's it going? Appreciate all the gems you're dropping. What do you feel like is your most valuable tool or skill set in your investor box?
Being resourceful. Two things: being resourceful and understanding when you should say no. Right, and I'll explain those two pieces. Being resourceful, a lot of things are going to come at you in this real estate piece, right? And you got to really understand, okay, well, all right, why are they telling me this? Okay, there's a 1% increase on this, or 30% of the tenants are not paying rent, or I have a value add strategy, or the price is going down, or the seller is willing to carry back 100%. Like, those are all different things, but understanding where that fits, you have to be resourceful to either dig those things out or figure out what the characteristics, what the metrics, what the pieces, what the parts of the deal is. And you have to be resourceful about finding that, because that's not always in the OM.
And now, is that, because if I had to separate those into discernment or just protecting your most valuable resource, which is time, which of those two, because they're both important, but of those two, which one does the saying no fall more into? So between discernment and protecting your time.
I think you got to take it on a case-by-case basis. If it looks right and feel right and adds right, then you take a discernful eye to it. And if it's not right, you say no. So I don't think I don't see that. I think it's more nuanced than just saying, I think you got to, understand your resources, understand the ins and outs and the backs and the ups and downs of the deal. You got to understand the pieces and parts. And if it doesn't look right, smell right, or add up right, say no. And sometimes it could be a good deal, and you have an opportunity cost, and you might have to say no as well.
And that, I think that was generally the critical point, because I won't look unless it is a good deal. But then a lot of times there are, maybe I find a lot of good deals, but it's like, but I would be giving up, the project that I'm already in or already landed, or this would be, maybe be beneficial on the long term, but derail me from my, my immediate goals.
Right, and that's an important piece as you kind of get through this, is sort of the shiny object syndrome, right? I can't tell you how many syndications I get, over email. It's been less now, interestingly so, but nevertheless, you get a lot of offers for different deals and opportunities. I get a lot of brokers sending me different deals, and that's a good thing to have those relationships, right? But you got to know when to say, okay, this is a good deal. This is a good deal, but this is the deal I'm going to chase, right? And really understand what that is. So the power of saying no is immense, and don't feel like you're hurting your feelings or the other person's feelings. You're doing them a favor by, I tell some brokers that I've talked to, hey, give me a quick no, or a diligent yes, but don't give me a long drawn out no. That's the worst. Make sense?
Definitely. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Jordan. Any others out there?
I have a couple. The first one is probably like just finding lenders. Like, for this deal that we've got under contract right now, we just went ahead and went with bank debt recourse because we needed to know, like today, what's the rate going to be? Is the CS?
Yes.
What, other than going bank recourse, what do you know of other options that are out there where you can get that yes before going in? Because I don't want to be in a situation like I was with our first deal where we sat for 3 months under contract without any kind of a loan product.
Yeah, that in today's market, someone asked me a long time ago, is it more important to have the deal, the real estate, the brokerage relationships, or the capital, right? And capital could be debt or equity, right? I think in the current market, you have to find the money. You have to somewhat lock in the debt. They used to say debt was easy to find and it's all over the place. Well, it is. It's just getting more and more expensive. Like, bridge lenders are no question going BK right now in the middle of deals. So now more than ever, I say what's tantamount is find the financial resources, find the debt, line up the equity, and deals will be around. It used to be deals were, everywhere, and you couldn't find them, and money was everywhere, and it was 2019 and 2020, and interest rates were 3s, 4s, 5s, and everybody was jumping in deals and doing this. Now, secure your financing. Even if you don't have a deal, secure those relationships, see what's real, and then hunt like heck to get the deal. And if you already have a deal, go to a number of resources on the debt side. But to answer your question directly, find the debt, find multiple sources of debt, and also dig deep to try and figure out if you can understand and evaluate what they're truly offering you. Because I'm sure, Angel, you or others have been in deals where, I say they leave you at the prom, if you will, right? They get you all the way kind of drug out, and you're going through DD and all
15 times.
And they will just leave you at the dance, and you're like, I don't have a ride home. So it's very important to find those financial relationships. And if you've done a deal with one, that's why they always say the power of one. The power, and I don't mean one as in the power of you,
0 to 1,
as the book, but actually what I mean is the power of that first deal. The power of your first deal is very key, because those relationships teach you, okay, you're going to get tested, but it also teaches you, can I use that financial debt instrument or a debt institution, can I do that with them again? Yes, maybe no. If it's a yes, okay, now you lock that in. We talked earlier about teams, so you kind of want to lock in your team. You kind of want to lock in a good equity partner. And if that's a capital raiser, or if that's a team, or if that's you're that, okay, cool. You want to lock in, some debt relationships, and that may be 1, 2, 3, because you don't want to get stuck with just one. You may want to lock in brokering relationships. You may want to lock in a market. Some of us might go, Northern Texas and stick with that, or some might go Kansas, or some might, stay the Rockies, right? Colorado, Utah, and that. Try to mine those markets. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I mean, we've decided to stay in our backyard, especially
Yep.
throughout all of the pandemic. It's not a 3Xer, but we
Yeah.
know this market. And
Yeah.
we know what's going on here. And so we feel good about, we can take a deal that wouldn't be so great for somebody else and turn it into an all-star.
Yep.
At least just cash cow. It's going to pay out its distributions.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that a point that, and I don't know if it was Jordan's question or Aaron's question, but in terms of that person that's starting off, try to figure out what your advantage is. Angel just hit on something key for those that are listening. She's gone through a number of different deals, gone through different financing, gone through different partners and this and that. But then at the end of the day, getting through 4 or 5, 6 deals or whatever, then you say, figure out, okay, what's my advantage? If your advantage is that particular market, then let that be the driver. Let that be what you do, right? If your advantage is property management, and you just so happen to be in, I'm gonna pick on a city, you just happen to be in Dallas, right? That could be an advantage because everybody wants to be in that market. Everybody's trying to mine properties in that market, right? If you're in North Carolina, right? Whatever the case might be there, I know that's one of those hot markets. Don't know, I haven't checked it in a while, and may not be. But if that's your advantage, figure out what your advantage is, and then maximize your business, your business or your relationships or your entrepreneurial spirit through that.
Cool. So I have a second question too, and this one isn't so much for me as it is for anybody that's listening, because I've got my underwriter. But I know like you did a lot of education on underwriting, and you're underwriting your own stuff, but how did you get comfortable with that?
I got comfortable with it by doing my own stuff, by looking at various models, and talking to people who I felt were experts in that, talking to people who understand underwriting in and out, going to meetups. There was a Thursday meetup that all they ever talked about was underwriting, and I used to go just to listen to it, right? Having the phone number or emails of people who are expert. There's this guy out there, his name is Jason, who if I have a true underwriting issue and it's just like driving me crazy, and it's like the bat phone, call Jason, right? So but you need to have those go-tos, right? And underwriting is one of those things, right? And until you get really good at it. And then when you get good at it, it's like riding a bike. You can kind of walk through things and do that. The other thing about underwriting that's a nuance is having the right model, right? There's a lot of different models out there. Some are purchased, some are modified, and some are this and some of that. But it's important to have a model that works for you and that that you can run through and deal with it. And then the third thing about underwriting, if you're not a good underwriter, choose not. Don't even do the other pieces of the deal. Do everything else. Find somebody on your team that can underwrite very good and align with them. He or her, right? So those are my thoughts on underwriting. When I first got into this thing, I was like, underwrite. Oh my God, I don't even want to pick up an Excel, right? It was just like horrible, but that's okay. But that's okay. I mean, and it's not that I didn't want to. It was just like I'm better with doing a lot of other different things. But now I can say, okay, I'm good at that. And I think that if you are going to be in real estate, you may not know how to put an Excel formula together, but you do need to understand how those metrics work together. When someone calls you and say, hey, well, what's the YLC on your deal? You need to understand what that means. If someone says, hey, what's your COC, and how is that going to affect your NOI, and why are your whatever the case, whatever the numbers they might throw, you need to be able to understand what those things mean. You may not be able to calculate it and put it all in a formula, but you do need to understand what they mean. Because if someone says, okay, well, I'm going to throw an interest rate at you for this particular deal, we're going to go 75 LTC down to 65 LTC, and your rate goes up 100 basis points. You can't just look at it blind in the eye and go, oh, what that person said? You got to know what that means. So that's kind of the underwriting thing. And now I feel like I'm pretty I'm comfortable at it. I'm not the expert. I'm not going to say I know how to do, what the whiz bang, formulas behind the formulas and all that type of stuff. And I don't think that you have to. But I do think you need to understand the metrics, the benefits, and the performance of a deal. And that's where underwriting is.
Real quick, I got one more.
Yes, sir.
Based on that right there, and again, I know it's never either one or the other, but just to get an idea, if you had to choose between like really not being good at anything or struggling with being good at many things, and I guess not necessarily being able to delegate as well, which of the things would you rather struggle with?
Wow, that's interesting. I think that I would rather struggle at knowing that well, let me answer it in this way. If there's 5 pieces of a business and I know that I'm not good at taxes and accounting, then I'd rather know that I can delegate that task and call up an accountant and have that person. So you may not be good at a lot of things, but you have to be good at either delegation or knowing yourself. That's what you got to be good at. You got to be good at knowing yourself and not doubting yourself. That's key. So I don't know the opposite of that, but you got to be good at knowing yourself and knowing what you're good at, because when you do that, then you'll be comfortable with saying, oh, I'm not good at networking. I'm okay with that. Right? You see what I'm saying? And so it's not really about, okay, well, I'm uncomfortable with this, I'm uncomfortable with that, or I'm going to do this. No. Let's turn that around and let's be positive. Let's put a positive spin on it. Let's think, positive mindset. What am I good at? And what do I need to understand and allow someone to align with me and be better at, right? You get what I'm saying? So I think that's where I try to take things. I'm okay with saying, hey, the smarter person in the room is this person, and guess what? They're on my team, and they're good at this. And because quite frankly, in business, you need someone you need someone to see your front and your back, right? You need someone to be your left and right, right? And someone to watch out for your blind spots. And you need to understand you have those blind spots. Because if you don't understand that, you'll be aimlessly walking around. Am I good at this? Am I good at that? I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm good at this. I think, hey, you're my partner. Oh, he took my money. Oh, they, left me at the dance. You just kind of get in this endless cycle of uncertainty, as opposed to a cycle of security in what you know, what you can do, and what others are good at, and how you can align with those others. Hopefully that answers the question. I know it was a little long-winded, but hopefully that answers the question.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
I have a question, Justin.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever had a bad deal? And if so, how did you overcome that obstacle or disappointment? Because at some point, I think it will happen, and we don't talk a lot about coping through the difficult times.
We don't. I've had several bad deals. I've had several good deals. And whether it's a bad deal or a good deal, you do need to do a lessons learned, right? You do need to stop after you've, left the bank or closed the account or cried your eyes out or woke up in a drunken stupor, the next morning, right? Whatever the case might be. And
It happens.
It happens, right?
It happens. Yeah.
You wake up and that whiskey bottle is completely empty and it's Saturday, right? You're like, hold on, I thought it was Thursday. We all have good and bad deals. We typically learn from the bad and not the good. So I think the key is learn from the bad. That's the key. Like when something goes sour, take notes. If it's going sour, take notes. If it's going good, usually we're like, hey, yeah, it's a party, it's going good, right? But yes, I've had bad deals, and I had deals where circumstances change on you, interest rates change, partners drop out, people steal money from you, people throw lawsuits at you, whatever the case might be. The owner backs out, or the timetable on that real estate contract was 60 days, 30 days DD and 30 days financing or whatever, and you run out of time, right? So learn from your bad deals. Talk about your bad deals. Go to people that you know and say, hey, I had a bad deal. And this is an interesting thing, but I call it the fallacy of social media. Every day is a good day on social media. Like, you ever see anybody sitting there crying about a bad deal? No, you don't. Not on social media. It's like, hey, I'm with my friends. Hey, I closed on a deal. Hey, I did something great, right? But learn from the bad deals. We have them. I'm going through several deals right now, and one of them is getting derailed, right? By what? Nothing I did, but the interest rates. I'm sure everybody on this phone who is in the middle of a deal is having some level of rockiness because of interest rates. And if you're not, that means you got your money either in the bank, it's set, and you're ready to go, right? And if you are in that situation, keep in mind what the takeout is 2-3 years down the road. Think about that one, right? So yes, I've had bad deals. I've had great deals. I've had good deals. I've had partners try to cut me out of deals. Just call me, hey, we don't think that you could hold up your side of the bargain, so we're just going to cut you out. What? I brought the deal to the table, right? So these things happen, right? Now I dealt with that, but at the same time, that was a blessing because that wasn't the deal I wanted to be in. That was, as they say, and I don't want to get, too religious, but, God saying, hey, you know what? These people are not the people you want to be associated with.
Yeah.
And here's that message. And that's what I took away from that. And I was okay with it. I got the fees that I was looking for out of it, and I moved on. But yeah, we have bad days.
Thank you. And that's important. I just mention it because not to discourage anyone, of course, and a lot of times we don't want to bring up these things, but I think it's important because it will happen if you're in the business long enough, but we don't want you not to feel like you can overcome that and move forward to the next deal once it happens. A lot of people, that's it. They give up. They had a bad deal. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm afraid, all these things. And so sometimes it helps just to have those conversations so you can feel supported by, your colleagues and other people that are in this space to be able to get through those times. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And I think that's important, to that you're right. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, right? But it's also very important for those who are coming up into this business is to have a support network around you, have a bunch of key people that do different things, right? And at least know different things and take them out for coffee, talk to them on a Tuesday, just connect with people. It's not necessarily networking. It's just connecting with people because bad days will come and you need to know. Sometimes you just need to know, am I doing this right? Am I crazy right now? Or am I doing good right? Sometimes you need sounding boards. You need trusted people around you that you can, maybe you have property management questions. Maybe you have accounting questions. Maybe you have percentage rated questions. Maybe you have real estate related questions. good, bad, or indifferent, but have people around you that are ahead of you and even behind you, right? And I mean behind you and ahead of you, maybe in a learning sense. I don't mean that in anything derogatory at all, because you can learn from, I learn from my son, every day, right? Because they're generational and they think about things different. And I'll throw something out. Hey, what do you think about this? We go apartment shopping, looking at new complexes. What do you think about this complex? And we might think, oh, well, as developers, oh, we're going to furnish this apartment with this and that and this and that. And that younger generation might come in, I don't like none of this furniture, right? And so here you go spending, $6,000 a unit with all this furniture, and this younger generation coming up, with apartments, they don't want all that crap, right? And like, I could have just saved $280,000 if I'd known that, right? So talk to people, learn from your mistakes, have trusted colleagues, network, be in communities that you can talk to other people in this space. Any other questions out there? Aaron, if you, I know we're coming up on the hour. Want to throw it back to you and see if you had any finishing thoughts. If there are any other questions that are out there, I just want to say I do appreciate you having me on this on your meetup. And I want to throw it out to those that are listening in. Feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me on my website is relequity.com, which is REL equity, which as a means of reaching me, I have my my email info@relequity.com is another way to reach me. But feel free to reach out. I love to talk to different people. I love to learn from others. I'll even share, Deidre asked about lessons learned. Hey, let's talk about that too. So.
Great. Thank you, Justin.
All right. Well, thank you. It's what, Thursday evening, and for those of us that are on the West Coast, we still got our evening ahead of us.
That's right.
Today is the 3rd of November, and actually there's a AREP meeting going on in San Francisco right now. So
that's right. The cocktail. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
huh?
So I'll be heading over to that.
All right, have
meeting.
fun. I thought I would go, but I'm gonna get into some Excel spreadsheets.
There you
this
go.
Evening.
There you go.
Well, have fun. Yeah.
Thank you,
okay, good to see you, Justin. Everyone have a great day.
Reese.
Yeah.
Good to see you too as well.
Hey, nice to see you. Thanks, Justin.
Okay, Lawrence. Everyone have a great evening.
Lawrence,
all right.
Take care, all.
Okay.
All right,
Bye,
brother
everybody.
Justin.
Take care, folks.
All right.
We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to say to everybody, thank you once again for coming. Thank you, Justin, for being a great guest speaker and sharing your knowledge to everybody, man. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And next week on this meetup, we're going to have a guy talk about VA loans. And that's something very, very needed that a lot of veterans need to hear about. So he's going to talk about VA loan financing. Very, very excited to have him on here to talk about it. But Justin, once again, thanks a lot, man. We definitely got to talk some more. And I look forward to seeing where you go at in the future, and us together as a future as well.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Man, I praise God to you in my life, man. So I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys. Well, it's good seeing you guys. We're ready to go in the meetup, but God bless you and see you next week.
All right, brother.
Lawrence, give me a call tomorrow, man.
Okay.